All right, we are live. Well, hello everybody. Hope you're having a great day today, and I am excited to dive into this topic with you guys. So today we're going to be starting to do a deep dive into some of the qualities of what is exactly a nice guy. You know, how does a nice guy show up in the world? What are some of the things to sort of um, just be mindful of, and then starting to look at how can we actually shift some of these dynamics. So whether you are a nice guy yourself, or maybe there's somebody in your life that is a nice guy, like your father, your brother, your uncle, a coworker, or there's just somebody in your life that you see embody these characteristics. This video is going to help you be able to distinguish the qualities, but also some ways that we can support as well. So just give me 1 second here as we're getting started, because I just want to make sure that I can share this video, which I can, and we will be good to go. Okay. So if you have any questions as we are diving into this discussion, or there's insights that you want to share, or just anything that you want to bring to this conversation, please feel free to put it in the comments below. Whether while we're doing this live, or whether you get to do that on the replay as well. And a little call out for some of you folks that, if you are in this place where you're trying to determine, like, hey, am I a nice guy? Do I have these nice guy qualities? If I do have these qualities, is there, sort of a blueprint or an action plan that I can put in place to get supported around this? My recommendation would be to connect with me, and just let's have a conversation, a 30-minute conversation, just so I can get to know you a little better and give you some support in this area. This is something that I do with my clients all the time, and I do want to make it known that, at this point of the journey, I'm happy to have conversations with people to support them in really being able to distinguish, how they're showing up in the world, and also give them support in how they can do things differently. So if you're looking to connect, I'm going to put this link in the comments below. I think this works here, and you can book a call with me there. Great. So the thing that I want to share right from the outset here is that one of the dangers of the exploration of nice guy tendencies is that I often see it where men, when they read a book like No More Mr. Nice Guy, or any of these sort of masculine related books, that um, when they start to see that, yeah, maybe I have these qualities of being a nice guy, or there are these certain sort of like negative qualities, that we start to see ourselves as being bad people, right? I'm a nice guy, I'm a pushover, I'm this, I'm that. And here's the thing that I share with everybody, because I think it gets missed in a lot of this work, is that it is okay to be a good man. It is okay to be a nice, kind individual out in the world. The world needs more generosity, more kindness, more love and affection. And so I would never want you to walk away from any of these conversations thinking that, how you're showing up in the world is wrong. Where the sort of the litmus test that comes in for this is like, are you being nice because that's the only way you feel that you'll get approval, or maybe keep the peace, or avoid conflict? Are you acting in this way so that um, you just gain approval? If so, that's really the place to look. Again, as human beings, and I mentioned this later on in my notes that I have, as human beings, we desire connection. We desire to be a part of community. This is passed down from generation to generation. And so it is perfectly natural to want to get along, to be a part of community. But that's where we want to start to be able to distinguish the reasons why we're doing this. And can we start to create more healthy ways of still being nice, being generous, being kind, but being assertive? Really understanding that, you know, really checking within and determining, like, hey, does this feel good to me? Does this feel right to me? and using that as sort of the compass to move through in life. So I want to make that clear because I've been in many conversations around, the we'll call it like the negativity around being nice, and I think this is a piece that gets missed. So in today's video, this first video, we're going to be looking at the nice guy tendencies. This is in chapter 1 of the book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. On Kindle, it's on page 21. I actually don't have the physical copy, so I had to refer to that. But basically, it's in the beginning of the book. And I'm going to just speak to some of these qualities that have been given by Robert Glover in the book, and then start to share my own perspective around them. So I'll share some of the stories I have or what I've seen with clients as well. So let's dive in. The first one being that nice guys are givers. And so fundamentally, the idea is just that nice guys are givers. They look to meet the needs of others, to satisfy the needs of others. And the first thing that I want to speak to, kind of similar to what I just touched on, is that it is okay to be generous and give to others. I kind of laugh because when you start to look at some of the like modern day literature, there's a lot of stuff around being generous, being, um, giving out donations, donating to the food bank. Again, these are all great things, but like you can see that as a society, it's really pushed to be generous. And so it's not a surprise that as nice guys, um, that this would be a quality or characteristic that shows up because it's pretty embedded into us as a culture. And similar to what I was speaking about in that sort of disclaimer at the beginning, the thing here that we want to look at is determining where that desire to give comes from. Are we giving to get recognition? When we make a donation to a charity, are we doing it to get recognition? Or even when we volunteer, or we go help somebody move, for example, are we doing it purely out of the goodness of our heart, or are we trying to get something out of it? So that's one of the key places to look at in terms of the giving, is like, where is that actually coming from? And you're going to see I move through these qualities, fairly quickly. The next one being that nice guys are givers. Sorry, I just said that one. Nice guys fix and caretake. So again, this is a conversation that shows up quite regularly when I'm in conversation with folks. So people will often say, I caretake a lot. I look to sort of fix the issues that are at hand. And again, it's not necessarily that that's a bad thing, right? People really value us as men being able to fix and solve things. I think the big thing that's here, and it's even mentioned in the book, is, are you looking to fix problems and caretake without being asked? Right? So it's one thing if you're being asked by a significant other or a coworker to, meet their needs or take care of something. But if you're doing it as sort of like a robotic behavior in order to maybe be in connection with that person or be approved or be liked, that's sort of a place to look at. And then the other thing that we want to be mindful of, and this is not going to be mentioned in the book, but one, asking for permission, right? This is probably going to solve a lot of your problems, um, by simply asking the person, right? Like, hey, do you actually want some support with that, or do you want something else? Are you wanting to vent in this moment, or is there something else that you need? Do you want me to go fix that thing for you or not? Do you want me to support you in this conversation or not? Notice that that's much more defined than simply being there for that person or fixing that person's problem, doing these things without getting that permission. It's a clear difference. Um, and the other point that I wanted to make for this one is that as men, we often look to fix situations because of the discomfort that we have with emotion. So let's say that our significant other is ramped up, they have heightened emotions, we feel uncomfortable in the moment. That's often the place that we're looking to fix. We're looking to fix them so that we don't have to be with that emotional problem. And so these are just the things to look out for, right? Because if you notice yourself in those situations, oh, I feel uncomfortable right now, I really want to fix this or get out of this situation, that's where the clues are, right? That's the place where, in fact, you may want to start asking for permission in terms of how you can support that person. And the other place to look too is, what if you don't actually want to support that person? What if you're like, you know what, in this moment, I'm not interested in helping him. That might even be a place to look as well, because at least you're bringing your honesty and authenticity to the space. So again, as we're carrying along with these, if you have any questions or anything that comes up for you, please feel free to put it in the comments as well. Just notice, like, where is this showing up for you? Where are the areas that you're like, oh yeah, that's me? It definitely showed up for me as I was taking some notes on this conversation. So the next one, we've kind of touched on this already, and this is the one that I was speaking to, that nice guys seek approval from others. So again, I really come from this place that um, well, in the book, it's spoken about that this is sort of a universal trait of nice guys. The nice guy seeks approval in others. I would say, really, this is a human trait that we want to be a part of community, we want to be liked. And because I spoke to this already, I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but really looking at, like, where is that coming from in our modern day society, right? So in the past, if we weren't a part of a community, we would have died, we would have starved, we would have been attacked by the animals or another clan, right? And so it made sense in the past that we belong to community. Nowadays, we live in a society, in a world where we've got, amenities and qualities of living that are so astronomically greater than our ancestors had, that the desire to survive is no longer such a physical thing, but it actually becomes much more of a mental thing. And so this is where we want to start to look at, is like, okay, I understand that as a human being, I still want to survive. I still want to be a part of community. But does that mean that I sacrifice myself? Does that mean that I allow people to treat me badly or cross my boundaries or all these things? And that's literally the conversation that you want to explore. Because if all we're doing is seeking approval from others, it's going to lead to a life that is negatively impacted. We're going to constantly be, you know, seeking that. And again, that's just a tough place to live from. What else do I want to share here? Well, I'll just jump into the next one. So nice guys avoid conflict. So fundamentally, that nice guys, we want to live in a world that's smooth. We don't want to rock the boat. We don't want to upset others. I'm just going to take a minute here and look at my notes on this one. And this is, yes, fundamentally true, right? When we hold that we want to live in a smooth world without rocking the boat or upsetting others. The thing that I would add to this piece, though, is like, this is one worth looking at from a trauma informed place, right? Because my hunch is that a lot of us as men, we've had traumatic experiences in the past, emotional experiences in the past, where conflict didn't go as we wanted it to. Maybe, when we were younger, we knew how to upset our mom, and then we had to caretake for our mom. Or, like, when dad got upset, maybe dad got aggressive, or was verbally abusive, right? Again, here I am sort of playing with the typical stereotypes. But this is a thing worth really exploring for yourselves, because, yeah, in a sense, probably no one really likes being in conflict. But if we actually look at this at a deeper level, I would start to say, looking at, like, well, is it that you are avoiding conflict, or is it that you're actually uncomfortable with the anxiety, the fear, or the discomfort that may come from being in conflict? And so in this area, it's so interesting, right? Because, you know, on the surface level, it could be like, yeah, like, nice guys just want to live in this smooth world without rocking the boat. I would actually say it's more about the man just having a desire to, be in comfort, to be in a relaxed state, and the avoidance of conflict is because they don't want to be in a state they're unfamiliar with. So if we can start to do the work to calm our nervous system, to just that, be comfortable, be grounded in the situations that generally would cause us tension, that is where the opportunity is. Because my experience has been that the more, if we can start to have maybe the conversations that we've been avoiding, or be in situations where we can actually be grounded in the conflict and be calm and spacious as somebody might be upset or somebody's crying, that then becomes a snowball effect. We've done it once in this situation, we can start to do it again in others, and that is really the gift that's there with this one. Next one, nice guys seek the right way to do things. This one has definitely showed up for me based on some of the conversations I've been having lately. And here's the thing, right? Is like, as nice guys, we're again looking for ways to sort of minimize risk, to sort of like stay in comfort, and have things go as smooth as possible. So, what is the opposite of that? Well, or sorry, what's in alignment with that? That's getting things right, not taking action until we know the outcome, trying to get things perfect, right? And so the thing about this one right here is that we need to be willing to allow our humanity into this space, to be able to test things out, to be able to practice, to be able to get things wrong, maybe even do like a post analysis afterwards of how a conversation's gone or how we showed up in a situation. Because the big thing that I see here is that trying to get things right, it's not a winning strategy. Yes, it might have really supported us to a certain level in our lives, but likely the next evolution from the nice guy to the integrated man is going to require us to take more chances, to be able to do things imperfectly and take those small risks to start to really build up, to be able to take the bigger ones. And again, it's coming from a place of starting, right? That's the big thing here, is getting yourself out on the court to take these actions in a way that kind of feels a little edgy, but doesn't totally push you over the line of discomfort. I got a few more here, and I got to cover them pretty quick. Actually, there's quite a few, so I might have to cover the rest of them in the next video. So, next one, nice guys repress their feelings. So again, this is one I've really noticed um, in the journey of supporting men, and one that's also shown up for me, right, is the repression of feelings. And it makes sense, right? It makes sense that this is a defense mechanism for a lot of guys, right? That maybe it's that they really are in tune with their positive emotions, but they're disconnected from their negative emotions. They don't even allow the negative emotions to show up. Or potentially even on the other side, right? They very much know their negative emotions, but they don't allow the expression of the positive. It's always worth checking within. I'll say in the work that I've done with men, it's really been across the board. But the really interesting thing that I notice in this work is that, um, what do I want to speak to? Yeah, like as we start to get into the conversations around some of these sort of shadow side things, right? Like, how did your parents treat you when you were younger? Or how have you been treated in relationships? These are areas where I can sense that there's emotional disconnect, right? Maybe they don't want to talk negatively about their parents, or maybe they don't allow themselves to be with their anger or their frustration. It kind of manifests in a lot of different ways. But that's the real opportunity, is starting to get in conversations with people who can really hold that space for you. If you don't have people in your life that will actually have these deep conversations with you, well, there's your opportunity right there. There's your work, is to start looking like, hey, is there men's groups that I can be a part of where I can just bring myself to the conversation? Or, just is there a way that I can actually start to access more of my emotions? Maybe that's through journaling. But this is the thing, is that as in the journey of becoming a whole human being, it's going to require us to have access to all of the levels of our emotions. So again, if you have any questions about this as we're chatting, please feel free to let me know in the comments. How many do I got left here? Ooh, three. I better make this quick. Okay, so next one, very, very common one, one that shows up is that nice guys often try and be different than their fathers. And so again, a great place of just looking at it is like, how do you relate to your father? Regardless of how he showed up in your life, whether he was the best father ever or he was the worst father ever that wasn't even present in your life, how do you actually relate to him as a human being? For me, my father, he had a mental illness from the age of 19 until he passed away in his 60s. I felt like my father really didn't teach me a whole lot in life. I had to learn a lot of things on my own. And even to this day, there's still some sadness with that. And there's much more that I could say on that. But, a couple of the things that my father did give me was a lot of love and really championed who I was as an individual. And so that is a part of the journey, is really looking at like, yeah, in some sense, I can see how I would want to be different than my father. And the one area starting to look at is like, where can you actually be in touch with your father's humanity? Where can you maybe bring forgiveness or create completion in the relationship with your father? Likely, the more that you're able to bring that forgiveness and grace to your father, you're going to be able to bring that back to yourself. And a big thing of noticing is like, if you're trying to be different than your father, again, really checking where that's coming from. Are you doing that to get the approval of others, or are you doing it because that's truly what's best in the world? Um, Here's a good one. Nice guys are more comfortable relating to women, right? Pretty common for a lot of men these days that they feel like they have better relationships with women than they do with men. They might have a few male friends, but they might not either. But they might not have any male friends. Um, and this is a key indicator, right? Is that when they're in relationship with women, they look to seek approval of women and try and differentiate themselves from other men, right? And so the opportunity there is really to connect to your authentic self. Sure, be different than the other men, maybe, but really look at like, what is authentic about you, where potentially can you champion masculinity within yourself. And then the other side that I would speak to is that this is the real opportunity of getting yourself into spaces with men, right? Being connected to men, being in fellowship with men, and really, my guess here is really just starting to break down some of the stereotypes that show up in masculinity by being in connection with other men. Um, so that's one place to look as well. I think for today, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to cover off the rest in the next part that I'm going to speak to. But I hope that this has been helpful for you. I think it's such an awesome conversation to be in, both to understand the nice guy tendencies and start to look at like, how can we take the principles that are discussed in the book and be able to start to implement them in in our lives, but also, to start to look at some of these other areas to bring into the conversation. Maybe it's getting support in sort of more of a therapeutic or a body-based perspective to really understand our emotions, and how if we can be grounded and calm in our emotions, well, then that helps us deal with conflict, and really just bringing grace. Again, I'll really hit back on what I said at the beginning of this video, that being a nice guy is a good thing, and being a good man is a profound thing. We need more good men out in the world. And so my hope is that as men, as we're sort of doing this work, that we don't judge ourselves for how we've shown up or we make ourselves wrong, but we really use this as a catalyst to develop ourselves authentically, that we can take the good of being a nice person and combine that with showing up authentically, showing up honestly, and showing up with the power that we all have to really make a difference in our lives and the lives of others. So I'm going to leave you guys with that today. Let me know if you guys have any questions around anything that we've discussed so far here in this video. Again, if you would like to just connect and have a conversation about where nice guy tendencies might be showing up for you, and just have a bit more of a deep dive into this exploration for you so that you can get an understanding of like, yeah, I kind of show up with these tendencies more, and this is where I'd like some support. Let's get on a call, let's have a conversation about that. We'll explore that together and we'll create a roadmap of where you can go next. All right, so have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye for now.